Welcome. In this series of videos we want to present our new device, the PLC2011B0. This is an alarm and measuring device with the ability to control electric circuits. As you can see, in the folder where the software exe file is placed, there is only one file. When you open the software, a new file, my_relays.xml, is created. This file stores some of the device's configuration, for example button names. This file can be copied to another computer or to your mobile device with the Android operating system, so that you don't have to configure your software again on that second computer or mobile device. On a mobile device, you need to copy this file to the main folder of the memory card. Let's start work with the program. Look at the list on the left. You need to enter the configuration for your device. First, give your device a name. In this example, we'll call the device simply PLC2011B0. Next, enter the device's IP address and port number. The values in the video are just examples, and in your device they depend on other settings that you have made. Beneath, enter the type of the device. When setting up a PLC2011B0 alarm, the device type should be type B. If you have more than one device, you need to add new devices to the list. Click the right mouse button on the list and pick Add a new device. A little configuration window will pop out. The settings in that window are the same as the settings shown a minute ago. When you are finished entering the settings, press the Accept button and a device will be added to your list. There is no limit to the number of devices that you can add. Double-click on the device you currently want to connect to. Now, try connecting to the device. Enter the at least 15-character long password that you have assigned to the device. If the settings and the password are correct, you should be able to achieve connection. The device having an at least 15-character long password is a safety requirement. The software will not let you save the password to the device if it is shorter. Now that we are connected, let's see what the device can do. The device has 10 alarm zones. These 6 normal alarm zones and 4 analog alarm zones. The analog alarm zones behave a bit differently to normal alarm zones. On the top you have the input section. You could say every input is divided into 4, as you can connect 4 sensors to one input. That is why every input has 4 LEDs. Each of the 4 sensors connected to an input should also be connected to a different resistor. This way, when a sensor registers something abnormal and sends a signal to the device can recognize which sensor it is. Every sensor is represented by a light beneath the input number. Whenever the mouse cursor changes into a hand, it means that you can double-click there and a new window will pop out. In this case, this will be the input configuration window. Every input from 1 to 21 will have its own different parameters. To the input you can assign one of the following options: alarm zone, analog zone with hysteresis from high to low, and analog zone with hysteresis from low to high. On the right you have the input calibration field. Calibration should be done before you connect any sensor to the inputs. Take the 7,500 resistor that you received with the device, connect it to the input and check whether the resistance really is 7,500 ohms. Then calibrate the input by the difference between 7,500 and the real value. You can check the resistance value in the second screen on the display in the middle of the main window. The Required to Arm checkbox defines whether all sensors must be closed for the alarm to be armed. For instance, you have connected a window to the alarm in such a way that the alarm recognizes whether the window is closed, half open, or open. If this option is active, it will only be possible to arm the alarm when the window is closed, and half opening or opening the window will trigger the alarm. If this option is not active, then the alarm can be armed without regard to the window's position, and any change of that position will trigger the alarm. For instance, if you arm the alarm while the window is half open, both closing and opening the window entirely will trigger the alarm. Switch to the Analog Alarms and Other tab. The main difference between the normal alarm zones and the analog alarm zones is that the analog zones do not remember an alarm after its cause has disappeared. You can, however, activate the Remember Analog After Triggered Event option. The device will then remember that an analog alarm was triggered. In such a case, the analog alarm button in the main window will change from blue to red. To put the alarm back to its normal state, you should disarm and arm it again. You can do this either using the buttons in the computer software or your mobile device. The thermometers and analog alarm options will be described in detail in another video. Let's switch to the Logic Functions tab. This works similarly to the programmable relay. For instance, let's take variable x8. You can configure it so that it activates when one of the alarm zones is armed. Save the configuration and see if this works. We have chosen zone 4, so let's switch on the alarm 4 button. Remember to first enter the 147 security code. As you can see, the x8 variable switches on and off whenever zone 4 is armed or disarmed. You can also build more complex conditions. For example, let's build one where alarm zones 1 to 3 and 4 must be armed for the variable to be active. Again, save the configuration and check if it works. As you can see, the variable is only active when all 4 zones are armed. You can later direct that variable or group of variables, depending on what settings you have made, to an output or to carry out other functions. Other configuration options include activation of the variable when an alarm is triggered, activation of the variable when an analog zone is triggered, or armed. These last two options also have astro timer and temperature dependable functions. When is this useful? For example, let's say you have FreeOffice connected by a common corridor. You could program the device so that the alarm in the corridor would be automatically activated once the alarms in all FreeOffices are armed. Now, let's switch to the output configuration window. As you can see, you also have logic functions for outputs. These functions are dependable on X variables. For instance, you can switch on an output when the x8 variable is active. Remember to save to the device. Earlier, we have set up the X8 variable to be active when alarm zones 1, 2, 3, and 4 are active, so this condition needs to be satisfied. If you disarm one of these zones, the variable will become inactive and so will the output. You can also try sending up feedback to one of the alarm zones. For instance, you can set the analog zone 1 to react to the X8 variable using the feedback option. Remember to save the configuration every time you make a change. Now, whenever the X8 variable appears or disappears, the analog zone will be armed or disarmed. You will also be able to arm and disarm it manually. That is all for now. Thank you for watching.